Herkese merhabalar. Bugün SIUK Türkiye olarak University of Glasgow temsilcimiz Charlie bizimle olacak ve University of Glasgow hakkında eğitim programları ve burs programları hakkında bize küçük bir sunum yapacak. Ardından sorularınızı da alabileceğiz.
Thank you. So I'm Charlie from the University of Glasgow, and I'm just going to take you through a short presentation sort of about the university, what kinds of things we have to offer, looking a bit at the student life within the city of Glasgow as well. So a little bit of background information to the university first. So we were established in 1451. So this makes us the fourth oldest university in the entire English-speaking world, after Oxford, Cambridge, and St. Andrews. We are in the world top 100 with QS and Times Higher Education, and both of these also put us in the world top 20 for sustainability as well. So you can get a world-class education delivered sustainably by the University of Glasgow. We were Scottish University of the Year in 2024 from the Times and Sunday Times. This is an award that is usually given out based on things like academics, but also looking at student life as well. So it's a bit more in depth than the QS and Times Higher Education rankings. We also won this award in 2020 and in 2022. We are a member of the Russell Group, universities in the UK. Effectively, what this means from your standpoint is your lecturers would be experts within their field. So they will be conducting their own really intense research into the area they're teaching you. So you will be taught by the best people possible to teach you these particular subjects. We are also home to more than 40,000 students from over 140 different countries, including more than 100 students from Turkey studying the various different subjects we have at different study levels as well. Some of the most notable alumni, obviously being a very old university, we've had some very famous and influential people come to study with us. So Adam Smith is amongst the most famous, the founder of modern economics. There is also James McCune Smith, who was the first African-American to achieve a medical degree anywhere in the world, and he did it with us at the University of Glasgow. So we've always been a very, very forward-thinking university. There's Lord Kelvin, who was one of the key scientists in the 19th century and developed the Kelvin temperature scale. You'll find he takes the name Kelvin from the area around the university. So there's Kelvin Grove Park, the Kelvin Grove Museum, the River Kelvin. So he was very much in love with the city of Glasgow. And there is Elizabeth Linus as well, who was a medical doctor and suffragette. For those who might not be aware, the suffragettes in the UK were a group of women who in the late 1800s and early 1900s campaigned particularly strongly for women to have the same right to vote as men did. We also have 8 Nobel Prize winners in our alumni as well. 4 of these were within chemistry, but we also have winners in physics and medicine too. More recently, some people you may or may not have heard of, 3 former First Ministers of Scotland, Murray Black, who was the youngest elected UK Member of Parliament in modern history. She was actually elected before she finished her studies with us. She had a couple of exams still to go. Sheila Rowan, who was part of the Glasgow team, or she led the Glasgow team, sorry, who detected gravitational waves. Stephen Moffat, who's the executive producer and writer for the BBC series Doctor Who, the revival since 2005, and Sherlock as well. Gerard Butler, who is an actor and film producer who studied law at the University of Glasgow, and Nikki Cross, who is a WWE professional wrestler. So quite a cross-section of society in our recent alumni. So a little bit about Scotland. So all of the pictures you can see here are bits within Scotland. So we were voted the most beautiful country in 2019 by Rough Guides. So the most beautiful country in the world. I apologize, I didn't finish my sentence. In the top left, you can see an example of some of the nature you find in Scotland that is often just sort of an hour, maybe 2 hours outside of Glasgow city centre. So you'll find lots of castles, lots of lakes, and lots of mountains as well. The middle top is the Kelpies, which is 2 giant horse head statues. I'm not entirely sure what it represents or why there would be 2 giant horse head statues, but it is quite a spectacular sight, and that is less than an hour outside of Glasgow. The top right, you've got the Edinburgh Tattoo. So this is sort of like a military festival parade that takes place towards the end of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is the largest sort of arts, comedy, theatre, music festival anywhere in the world. That takes place every August. The bottom left is an art installation, which is in the south of Scotland. It was actually created by an immigrant to Scotland who presumably very much fell in love with the country. And it just depicts what Scotland sort of looks like from above, but you can walk around this. It's only an hour or so south of Glasgow. Bottom middle is a picture of some old streets within the old town of Edinburgh. So Edinburgh has a very sort of old city centre with lots of sort of picturesque streets, some of which were the inspiration for Diagon Alley within the Harry Potter movies. And my favourite picture on here is the Highland cow in the bottom right-hand side. These are the cows that are native to the northwest area of Scotland. We actually have a park within Glasgow that has their own herd of Highland cows. So very much like ordinary cows, but very hairy and orange. So Glasgow as a city also has a lot to offer. The top left-hand side is the main shopping street within Glasgow. This is it all dressed up for Christmas in December. So the department store on the right-hand side do a very, very spectacular light show. We have a Christmas market with fairground rides that you can see at the very, very end of the street. The city centre of Glasgow has just about everything that you could possibly want. You've got shops, you've got museums, art galleries that we'll come on to in just a second as well. You have 2 train stations that mean that the rest of Scotland is within a very easy reach. Glasgow itself is just 4.5 hours from London by train, but you can also fly from Glasgow Airport in less than an hour. In an hour, you can also reach Edinburgh Airport, which has direct flights to Istanbul. The top left is the OVO Hydro. So this is our sort of main music arena within Glasgow. Glasgow is a UNESCO City of Music, one of only 2 in the UK. It means you'll be able to find over 100 different live music performances within the city every single week, ranging from the big famous acts to sort of smaller acts you might not have heard of. The top right-hand side is a park called Queen's Park, which is towards the southern side of Glasgow. This highlights sort of the green spaces you'll find. So we have over 90 different parks and green spaces spread throughout the city of Glasgow. Including Queen's Park, which is one of the larger ones, Kelvin Grove Park, which is right next to the university campus that you'll see in a moment, and Pollock Country Park, which is the one I mentioned earlier, which has its own herd of Highland cows. The bottom right-hand side is this square in sort of the middle of Glasgow. Towards the right-hand side of that is Queen Street Station, sort of the glass building within that same picture. This is sort of where a lot of city life is based. It's where the Christmas market is in December. And sort of a lot of other events take place throughout the year here as well. The bottom middle is Kelvin Grove Art Gallery and Museum. So this is right next to the university campus. One key thing about art galleries and museums in the UK is they are usually all completely free. And this has an art gallery on the top floor. On the ground floor, it has stuff related to Scotland and Glasgow, but also has things on loan from the British Museum in London as well. The bottom right is our subway network. I say network, it's one line that does a nice circle around the city. This is the 3rd oldest subway in Europe after London and Budapest, and it's part of a really, really good public transport network we have throughout Glasgow that consists of suburban trains, obviously our subway, and a lot of buses as well. One of the great things about buses in Scotland, if you are under the age of 22, you can use every single bus in the entire country for free. So I think I click next. I have now. So this is an overview of our campus. Not every building is on it, so we'll show you a different angle in just a second, as we have invested a lot of money into our campus. The trees towards the bottom left, you can see, is the start of Kelvin Grove Park that I mentioned just a second ago. So the building in the middle is the main building. It's the building the university was focused on when we moved to this site in the late 1800s. It is an active building, so lectures take place in here, other classes, sadly exams, but you also graduate in this as well. So you have a spectacular backdrop for your graduation. Towards the bottom, you've got the James Watt Engineering School. So this is spread across two buildings. You can actually just see the second one towards the right-hand side of the one that's being pointed at here. These buildings ensure that you've got state-of-the-art facilities for engineering. So, for example, we have a wind tunnel on campus. It's Scotland's main wind tunnel that you get to use if you're studying engineering. Towards the top right, we have the University Library. This has over 2,500 study spaces available for group and independent work, spread over 12 different floors. We also have over 2 million books and special collections as well. And there is an art gallery in the small building you can see just to the left, sort of with the white tower. Across from the library is the Fraser Building. This houses student resources and international student support as well. We'll come on to a bit more in terms of what that offers a bit later on, but this is also where the on-campus doctor's surgery is based. So, as I mentioned, we've expanded the campus. All of these buildings you see in the middle would not have been on the picture I just showed you, as they've all opened within the last 2 to 3 years. We have spent over £1 billion on the campus, so that's about 1.3 to 1.4 billion US dollars, ensuring that our students have state-of-the-art facilities to make sure that you can get the best out of your degrees from the University of Glasgow. This is one of the biggest expansions of a UK city campus in the last 100 years. One of the main new buildings we have that is now in the middle of campus. On the picture I showed you a second ago, it was a car park, but I have another one from a different angle that will point it out in just a second. So this is the James McCune Smith Learning Hub. So it can accommodate over 2,500 students with a lecture hall for over 500. And it has interactive teaching spaces, which range in capacity from 340 to 75. This allows for sort of more class-based learning like you'd find in school. And there's hubs which can accommodate a number of seminar and group study spaces. And on the ground floor, you also have restaurants as well for food. So this is the campus from the other angle to the one we looked at it originally. You can see towards the bottom right some of the new buildings and some land being prepared for yet another one as well. Just to point it out, there is the University Tower. You can see that from almost anywhere within the city of Glasgow. So, for example, I live about 3 or 4 kilometres away from the city, and when I go to the park near my house, I can still see this tower. Here is the James McCune Smith Learning Hub, so the one that we just pointed out a second ago. And on the right-hand side, we have the Mazumdar Shaw Advanced Research Centre. So we bring all of our research together in one place to allow for some sort of excellent cross-subject collaboration to ensure that we get the most out of our research. 2 other campuses that we have are the Glasgow campus. So this covers over 200 acres and is the primary campus for students studying veterinary medicine. It has the small animal hospital and the Glasgow Advanced Equine Hospital, and it is also where most of our sports facilities are based. So, for example, team sports, we don't have enough space on the campus that I just showed you in the city centre. So we have it a bit out. It's only sort of 3 to 4 kilometres outside of the main campus. We then have the Dumfries campus. So this is situated in southwest Scotland, about an hour and a half or so from Glasgow. It hosts the School of Sustainable and Environmental Sustainability. And it offers a really, really great learning environment alongside the world-class education you get from Glasgow. This campus is shared with the University of the West of Scotland and the Open University. So even though there's only one school there from the University of Glasgow, you still get a really, really good campus experience. In terms of the subject areas we have on offer, we're what's called a comprehensive university. So it means we have sort of a bit of everything. Arts, humanities, social sciences and languages, business, accounting and finance, education, engineering, law, medicine, dentistry, nursing and veterinary science, and then sciences, which also include computing, psychology and maths. I'll come on to the undergraduate degree structure in just a second, but we have over 300 different degree combinations where you can combine subjects as well. So in terms of our rankings, most of our subjects fall within the top 20 in the UK. You can get more information on the Sunday Times Good University Guide. We've got a fair few subjects in the top 5 and a fair few in the top 10 in the UK as well. While our rankings are very, very good, I would say they should not be the most important thing when it comes to looking at your degree. You need to look at your course content and also the city and environment you're going to be in. So it is about a lot more than just where the university ranks. The picture in the background here is the main building that I showed you earlier. So again, a bit more of the environment where sort of you get to study and obviously graduate at the end as well. So I mentioned the undergraduate degree structure. It is a bit different to the degree structure that you might find within England. So I studied in England. An undergraduate degree lasts for 3 years, and you generally fixate yourself just on the 1, maybe 2 subjects that you've chosen to study. Within Scotland, an undergraduate degree typically will last for 4 years, and we use a system very similar to that which is used in the USA. So of having sort of majors and minors in effect. The MA Social Sciences, BSc and MSci are all flexible degrees. So you will study more than 1 subject in your first 2 years of your degree. And you actually have some scope to change your degree if you've studied the required subjects and receive approval from your school of study. So I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in just a second. BEng and MEng, so these are our undergraduate engineering programs. You all study the same module in year 1. So this means you have a bit more ability to change engineering disciplines after first year, subject to approval from the College and School of Engineering. Subjects that don't fit this structure are things like law, accounting and finance, medicine, dentistry, and veterinary medicine. Everything else offers some degree of flexibility. Those other degrees have very strict accreditation, which mean we have to sort of follow a certain pattern. So this is an example of an undergraduate physics degree. The 3 examples I'm going to show you are all real life examples of students. So in the first year of their degree, they had to study physics, as that was obviously the core subject. They also had to choose 2 more. So they chose chemistry and astronomy. By and large, you have a lot of freedom as to what you choose as your other 2 subjects, as long as you meet the entry requirements and it fits in with your timetable. At least one of them should also be from the same college. So in this case, instead of astronomy, if the student met the requirements and there was wrong on the timetable, they could have studied English literature, for example, as a 3rd subject. Going into year 2, they dropped astronomy and chose just to focus on physics and chemistry, and studied those at level 2. And then in years 3 and 4, they chose to focus just on physics as they had applied for. What they could have done, as I explained a moment ago, after year 2, they could have decided they wanted to do chemistry instead, and subject to approval from the School of Physics and the School of Chemistry, they could actually have changed their degree to be chemistry instead of the physics they'd applied for. This is an arts and humanities example. So in year 1, they applied for economics and politics. So those 2 subjects are fixed and they must study those for the first 2 years of their degree. They chose history as their year 1 subject at level 1. They didn't really like it very much. So they chose to do classics in 2nd year. Where it's new, they also change it. They also study that at level 1. This does mean that you can't then choose either of those subjects to carry on with because you have to have studied it to level 2. The student then in year 3 and 4 carried on with economics and politics at levels 3 and 4. But as I mentioned, they could also have chosen to drop one and go straight through with economics instead. They could also have done the same with politics. Applicants who receive exceptional grades can be considered for advanced entry. You generally have to exceed your entry requirements quite significantly. It is not particularly popular. Most students tend to choose to complete their degree in 4 years, but advanced entry means you can complete this within 3 years instead. It is available in all arts, humanities, and social science subjects, and is always done on a case-by-case basis. It will depend on what you've studied at high school and what grades you get. Faster route programs are available within computing science, software engineering, as well as maths and statistics. These are all listed on the website as separate programs and have clear entry requirements listed. So you'll be able to know in advance whether you're eligible for those. In terms of entry requirements that we look for, so A levels, if you're studying those, we would look for an A and 2Bs to 3As, typically asking for an A in any required subjects. On the International Baccalaureate, we would look for a score of 32 to 38. For those studying that, you would need typically to study higher level in any required subjects and also achieve a 6. If you want to do anything maths related, it usually needs to be maths AA that you have studied at higher level and not maths AI. In the Turkish high school diploma, typically we would look for 75 to 80% as your overall average. With higher scores, so sort of more towards the 80% in your required subjects as well. If you've done the Turkish high school diploma, you usually will need to do another English test such as IELTS. Typically, the minimum score will be 6.5 with no less than 6 in any of the skills, but that will vary depending on what you want to study. If you don't meet the requirements, you can look at doing a foundation course. Successful completion of the foundation course offers you direct entry onto the degree of your choice, and you go direct into year 2. So doing a foundation at the University of Glasgow doesn't actually mean that you add a year onto your degree. The degree will still take 4 years, but your first year is done with Glasgow International College instead. So if you don't meet the requirements for whatever reason, maybe you've not done the right subject on something, or maybe you've not quite achieved as high as you wanted to, this is an option, but it is not essential if you're doing the Turkish high school diploma. We accept that from all schools for direct entry onto our degrees. We have established partnerships with institutions across the world in places like Hong Kong, Singapore, and the USA. This allows you to do study or work abroad as part of your degree. We have options to do it for a year, a semester, and also sort of shorter term. There are no extra tuition fees for doing this, and because the degree is already 4 years long, again, unlike in England, it will not add a year to your degree. So you would still complete your degree within the standard 4-year period. This is the more painful part. So tuition fees typically will vary depending on the course you want to do, but they are fixed within certain schools. So an arts, humanities, and social sciences degree is around £26,500 per year of study. Science, life sciences, engineering, and nursing are around £31,800 per year of study. Veterinary medicine is just over £36,000 per year. Dentistry is around £55,000. Medicine is just under £59,000 per year. Typically, you'll find the fee will usually fix after 1 year. So whatever you pay in your first year, you pay the same for the rest of your time at the university. So although the fees do change every year, it usually stays the same once you've started. There are some exceptions to this, but it's sort of on an individual basis, and I don't know all of the rules. So Glasgow is typically one of the more affordable student cities in the UK, significantly so compared to London and also Edinburgh as well. This is a rough cost of living estimate per month. It's worth noting that this is actually cost of living. So we've not just factored into your cost of existing here. So the food cost of £290 per month, for example, that actually is enough money for you to both buy your groceries and to go out and sort of enjoy meals out as well. Groceries I have found in the UK to be amongst the most affordable in Western Europe, particularly compared with countries like Germany, France, and Spain. So we are a very affordable country compared to those in terms of food. Some of these are a bit high for what you would spend, but it's just sort of a rough estimate to allow you time or to allow you to budget properly. So the overall monthly cost is around the equivalent to 60,000 Turkish lira as of this afternoon. To give you a rough idea what it would be compared with in Turkey. The accommodation cost worked out is around 29,000 Turkish lira per month. I'll come on to university accommodation in a moment. The main scholarship for students from Turkey is the World Changers Global Excellence Scholarship. So this is £7,000 per year of study. It is available for almost every course. The notable exceptions, I'm sorry if you're choosing one of these, are medicine, dentistry, veterinary medicine, and those are the three. It is awarded based on your academic merit. For example, from the Turkish high school diploma, you need to be achieving at least 80%, ideally more. You do not need to apply for your application. You do not need to apply for the scholarship. You receive it after we make you an offer to study. We will then notify you whether you are eligible for this particular scholarship. So it's awarded automatically based on high school grades. University accommodation, we have 13 undergraduate residences, 10 of which are within walking distance to the main campus. If it's not, you can use your free bus pass that I mentioned earlier on. You can apply as soon as you have a conditional or unconditional offer, so you absolutely shouldn't wait. As I mentioned, it's from £650 per month, so that's typically a room with shared facilities, but you can also have a room with maybe your own bathroom or your own kitchen. That will cost you a bit more. So as I mentioned, this is around 29,000 Turkish lira per month. Everything is included, your utility bills, your contents insurance, and your internet. So there's not really any extra costs associated with university accommodation. If you rent privately, the prices will vary. You might find something cheaper, you might find something more expensive, but utilities, contents insurance, and Wi-Fi will typically not be included with these, but it's always worth having a look. University accommodation also have trained pastoral staff living on site as well. So if you do have any issues, you can always reach out to them very, very easily. So a bit more on student life. We have over 300 different clubs and societies as part of the Student Representative Council. Some of our weird and wonderful clubs include the Bad Movie Club, beekeeping, juggling, and there's a Harry Potter society as well. We also have ones based on nationalities and culture, so there is a Turkish society. We also have a Model UN and one for wider international students as well. This the SRC also offers you independent support services. So if you have any issues with the university, maybe with a lecturer, you can go to the SRC, and they support you independently of the university. So you really don't need to worry about any kind of bias. We have two students' unions, the Glasgow University Union and the Queen Margaret Union. You are part of both as a student. The Glasgow University Union tends to host things like quizzes, debates, and formal dances. Whereas the Queen Margaret Union is historically the sort of live music venue and have hosted acts such as Queen, Nirvana, and Coldplay. The Glasgow University Sports Associations represents all students who are involved in sports activities, from if you want to just use the gym a couple of times a week to if you want to play competitive sport with the university. Forgot it takes a few clicks to move on from this one. Sports facilities. So this is a picture of the Garscube campus from above, the facilities we have. It's £170 for full access or £120 for off-peak. So that just means you can't use it when it's busy. There is a swimming pool on campus. We have fully equipped gyms and studios, grass and all-weather pitches for football, rugby and hockey. There is a cricket oval, running track, tennis and squash courts, and even a martial arts studio as well. And we have over 350 classes a month, which are fully included within the membership we offer. I mentioned a very long time ago about the Fraser Building and student support. So in terms of international student support, as I mentioned, it's located right in the middle of campus. We have a team that can offer visa and immigration advice. If you have any issues before you arrive, this will be the team that help you. If you have any questions while you're at the university, for example, you may want to ask questions about working, so you can work for up to 20 hours per week. But if you want to change to a different visa at the end of your studies, this will also be the team that help you. Student safety and well-being can just provide help if you've got any particular issues, maybe cultural adjustments or sort of just questions you need to ask someone. International student welcome. They run events during sort of what we call Freshers Week. So this is the first week of term where you can get to meet other international students from Turkey and beyond. And you have lots of opportunities within that and within the International Student Society to socialize with each other and visit the local area as well. Other things we have, English language support. If you're struggling with English language when you arrive, that is entirely normal. I was an international student myself a very, very long time ago. You will find your English will improve incredibly quickly living in the UK. But if you do have any issues, you can get help for free. I mentioned the doctor's surgery. So as part of your visa fee, you have to pay what's called the health surcharge, but this has the bonus of meaning everything is included. Doctor's appointments, hospital visits, prescription medication, everything within that is free. Student counselling and psychological services, so if you do have any issues, they can help you. Obviously, life can be stressful outside of university and it can be stressful within. Again, this is an entirely free service. The chaplaincy service can provide faith-based support to people of all faiths and to those of none. And the careers service also will provide support for what to do after university, but we'll do this through the lens of what you should do at university. You can use it from day one to help choose your modules, and you can use it for up to 2 years after your graduation as well. How to apply. I won't spend too much time on this because SI UK are here and are a fantastic company that can help you through all of this process. Undergraduate applications are all done through UCAS or the common application if you're maybe adding 1 or 2 UK universities to a mainly American application. Everything is done on one website for UCAS, so you do not need to worry about doing multiple applications. But again, SI UK can talk you through this whole system a little bit later on. There is no need for me to spend too much time on it at all. General dates for when to apply. Applications open in September. For a handful of students, it closes in the middle of October, but the rest of them, is usually the last Wednesday of January is what we call the equal consideration deadline. So, for example, this year, it doesn't matter if you submit your application on the 4th of September or the 29th of January, we will look at it exactly the same, so long as it's not for one of those subjects mentioned on the 15th of October. But you can apply it right up until the 30th of June. Again, a bit more information about what happens next. Applying by January gets you a decision by the end of March. With one of these decisions, it's usually a conditional offer if you haven't yet finished your high school or university. Unconditional offers are usually reserved for those who have their final grades. And unsuccessful is incredibly rare, but will be if maybe you're not taking a required subject at high school or studying the wrong thing at university. You can chat to current students online. So we have students from all over the world on this platform, students studying just about every subject area that we have on offer. So it's glasgow.ac.uk/ask-a-student. Again, SI UK will be able to provide you with more information on this as well. And I'm sure we'll have their own network of students they can ask questions to. But it's not quite like a live chat, so it is done when the student has time. You won't necessarily find an international student studying your subject, but you can speak to more than one student. So you can speak to one about the subject and one about life as an international student. We also have lots of content on our social media platforms. So we are on just about everything. The main one we use is YouTube, but you'll be able to find us on Instagram, on TikTok, on, I forget what other social networks there are, but we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, everything you could want to find us on. Lots of content made by students is posted, particularly on the more video-based platforms. There's a couple of videos about a day in the life as an international student. You can see in the bottom left there is a student from Nigeria explaining some cultural differences she found. So there's lots from international students as well as from UK-based students as well. That is it from me in terms of the presentation. So you don't have to listen to me talk endlessly at you anymore. I will now end this so I can get back onto the main screen and stop sharing.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for the presentation. You highlighted every important details almost, but there are some questions still. You're done, right? Can I continue with the questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. I'm not sure you have an idea about this one, but for Erasmus Mundus Scholarship, it's funded by UE, I guess. Are students eligible for graduate work visa?
As far as I know, yes, because the main thing is obtaining a degree from the UK. There may be some conditions. Hang on a minute, I'm just trying to see if I can.
Because as far as I know, these master programs are 2 years.
Yeah.
and they change their campuses time to time.
Yeah, so you typically will do 2 years studying. It's usually sort of 6 months in each different campus. So there'll be different ones spread throughout. Normally, obviously, Glasgow is one, but the others will usually be in EU states. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure, Farhan. I wouldn't want to give I wouldn't want to give a wrong answer. That will be something, if you reach out to SI UK afterwards, they can email me and I will happily double check it for you just to make sure we definitely give you the right answer.
All right, thank you. And the second question, what is the application deadline for PG students?
So for PG students, the application deadline usually is later than for undergrad. It's not normally until the end of June or even July. But it will depend slightly depending on the course. The important thing for postgrad is we don't operate the same system that we do for undergrad. So for undergrad, I showed you we have the equal consideration deadline. For postgraduate, there's no such sort of operation. So it's very much just when the course is full, it closes. So the most important thing you can do if you're interested in any of the postgrad courses is actually apply as soon as you can. There's no fee to apply unless it's for a business school course. So it's always worth just doing an application, even if you're not 100% sure.
Thank you. And this question related to accommodation options. What are the campus accommodation options in Glasgow?
So being a city campus, we don't have a massive amount of accommodation on campus, purely because there isn't enough room. Most of our accommodation for both undergraduate and postgraduate students is within walking distance of the main campus. So that's typically within about 15 minutes. Rooms, so we don't use the system they use in the US where you end up sharing a room with someone you've never met before. You usually will have your own room, but you have rooms with shared facilities. So you would share your bathroom and your kitchen with other students. These are the cheaper options. So these are the ones that were around sort of 29,000, 30,000 lira per month. You then have somewhere maybe you have your own bathroom, but you still share the kitchen, or an ensuite in English or French. I think we stole that from. But this one will be a little bit more. And then we have studio apartments, which have their own self-contained bathroom and kitchen within your room. Those are the most expensive rooms, as they obviously afford you sort of the greatest privacy and have sort of the best facilities. So those are sort of generally the main options we have. You can also rent privately if you're interested in that. And there are several companies that run accommodation within Glasgow as well, most of which we have some kind of partnership with, such as Unite Students or others. You'll find them on our website, but there are others if you're interested in looking at a third party that we don't strictly have partnerships with.
Does it guarantee accommodation for UG students?
So we do usually have an accommodation guarantee for the first year for international students. So there are a couple of rules and conditions. So you have to make us your firm choice on Glasgow, on Glasgow. You have to make us your firm choice on UCAS by a certain deadline, and apply for accommodation by a certain deadline as well. Last year, we also offered a postgraduate accommodation guarantee, and it was on the same kind of basis. You had to accept your offer and accept your offer, pay the cash deposit, and apply by a certain deadline for your accommodation as well. The deadline for that is usually around July to actually submit your accommodation deadline. But as always, the earlier the better, because there will be more availability and a wider variety of accommodation early on.
Thank you. And I guess this is the last question. Do I have to attend pre-CAS interviews to get CAS?
I don't know the answer to that one.
Or maybe you can mention the CAS process for Glasgow.
So how CAS works is we can't process CAS until you have your unconditional offer. So I mentioned in the slides how you can be made a conditional offer, usually if you're pending your university or school grades, or if you need to do your English test, like your IELTS or TOEFL, for example. Once you've met all the conditions and have accepted your offer by typically by paying their CAS deposit, we can then begin to process CAS. CAS normally is not issued more than 3 or 4 months before the start of your course day. So even if you've met all of your conditions by February and you have your unconditional offer, you cannot get your CAS. We are not allowed legally to process it by that day. So it has to wait until usually around May or June time before we begin to do any processing. Then you typically will receive a document where you have to check everything is correct, making sure the passport details are right, your name is correct, and any other information we have about you. As part of your visa application, you have to provide evidence that you have an offer to study, and that is what the CAS is for. And you also have to provide some form of financial evidence as well. So this is proving to the UK government that you have enough money to pay the rest of your tuition fees. So the CAS deposit usually is taken off the tuition fee. So say the CAS deposit, for example, is 2,000. That's then taken off the tuition fee when you come usually. And any scholarships are taken into account with this as well. So you have to prove you have enough funds to cover the rest of the tuition fee left, and also a certain amount of money per month, which I think has just changed, but is usually just over £1,000 per month in terms of living costs. There are a couple of rules about how long this has to have been in your account, etc., all of which are available on our website, and I'm sure SI UK will be very familiar with the rules as well in terms of how that works. It's not normally a problem. You might think at points your CAS is taking too long to arrive. This is incredibly normal to think this. The most important part of it is to remember that at the university, we do this every year. We have everything is on a process and on a timetable, so you will receive everything sort of in plenty of time. So you might sort of be worrying about how long it's taking, but there is no need to.
Thank you, Charlie. The living expenses, annual living expenses in Glasgow is 10,500 right now. The student can ask anything related CAS or visa to us, as you said. Thank you so much. Would you like to add anything before we end?
I don't think so.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You highlighted everything, actually. Thank you for your presentation and for your time. Have a nice day.
Thank you for hosting, and thank you everyone as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.